Hi, it's Fleur here from Little Desert Quilts. Welcome to my temperature quilt. So in this quilt, I'm going to combine two things that I have been working with a lot lately, and one of those is the Kaniva block template set. So here's the Kaniva block template set. So this is a set that I invented as a scrap buster. It has three template pieces, the A piece, the B piece, and the C piece. Now we are only using part of this set for the temperature quilt. So the scrap buster, there are plenty of classes in the Geeks archive library or Geeks TV. You can see my classes that I've done before on the template set and how to use that as a scrap buster. Here's an example here of the type of quilt you can make using up your scraps and using the Kaniva template set. So we're going to use this template set to make a temperature quilt. Now what's a temperature quilt? It is a way of recording the temperature every day for a whole year at your location. So you record the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature for every day. So you need to keep a track of that. Now, what I recommend you do is you print off the temperature quilt planner. Now, I found a great one on the Maddern website, and I'll put a link up here. While you're watching this, I'll put a link to take you straight to this particular template, and you can print this off. So it's a 2-page document. It's probably one of the best ones that I've found. Of course, you can use any temperature quilt planner you like, or you can invent your own. You can make yourself an Excel sheet or something. But what you need to record is the minimum and maximum temperature for every day of the year. So this has got all the months here, and the rest of the months are on the second sheet. But this sheet also provides a place for you to record, to put your fabrics, and I don't know whether you can actually read that. Put your fabrics and also designate your temperature to the fabric. All right, so that's just a little bit about the planning part. So you will need some sort of way of tracking the temperatures and also recording your fabrics. Now, I'm going to actually make two quilts. I'm going to make a small quilt and I'm going to make a large quilt. I'm going to use the B piece for the small quilt, and I'm going to use the C piece for the large quilt. So I'm actually only using one template per quilt. And I'm going to do two different options in my fabric. I'm still going to use grunge. So grunge is a motor fabric. It's a fantastic blender type of fabric. And I'm going to show you these fabrics in a second, but I'm going to do two options. I'm going to do a 42 fabric quilt. So I'm going to make my small quilt with the B template out of 42 different fabrics, and then my larger quilt I'm going to make from the C template, that I'm going to use 22 fabrics. So these are the 22 fabrics that I'm going to use for my larger quilt, and the reds are the hottest. Perhaps if I hold it up that way, it'll hold up for me. So these are the hot temperatures up here, and these are the cold temperatures down here. And for my 22 fabric quilt, I'm going to, the very lightest fabric down here is going to be for 0 and below. And then every other fabric is going to have 2 degrees. So 0 and below, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, etc., all the way up to the one at the top here. And then there'll be a 39, 40, and the very last fabric at the very top is going to be 40 plus. Now, I need all those fabrics for my location because I've done some research on historical data, historical data of the weather at my location. And I looked at the last 10 years, and we have that bigger range of weather, of temperature, minimum and maximum here at Kaniva in my location. Now, your location, you may not have such a diversity of numbers. Your location, you might find that, it's 23 degrees during the day and 10 degrees at night for a long time. So you may not need such a wide range of fabrics. So you need to do a little bit of research. I will have these packs available, and I will give you those details at the end of the video. I'll give you those details of what packs I've got and how much they're going to be. I'm not going to talk about that during this video. I want to get on and show you sort of a bit of the process of what you need to do. So This is going to be the large quilt, so the C template, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to go about it. So first thing I'm going to do is fill in my temperatures, minimum and maximum for January, as far as I can go in January, because we haven't quite finished January yet. And I'm also going to put in my fabrics and designate what temperature is going to be allotted to each fabric. So when I've done that, I'll be back and we'll go on to the next bit. So I've gone ahead and written my information on my sheet. 2023 Kaniva, Victoria, which is the year and my location. I've also written up the top template C, the large quilt, because this is the sheet that refers to the large quilt for me. And I've put the number down here of all the grunge fabrics that I'm going to use, and then assigned them all a temperature. So my very top one is 0 and less, so anything that is 0 and less is going to be represented by fabric 435, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., all the way down the bottom when I have 41 plus. And I did have a change of colour just at the last minute, so it's now going to be colour 82. So how do I start? I look at my January the 1st. Our highest temperature for January the 1st was 41 degrees. Welcome to 2023. So I'm going to move that out of the way, grab my number 41, which is number 82. Now, when I cut my strips, when I cut these from the bolt, I actually wrote with a pen, so it does not come off in the selvage. So just in the selvage here, and I will do that on the bundles that I make up for anybody who wants to get a bundle. It will have the number written on the selvage so you know exactly what it is. Now I'm going to leave my strip folded, and I'm going to cut 2 pieces at once. Now you see I've got it on my rotating mat here. So the easiest way for me to do that is just bring this end in so that it is all on the mat. And I'm going to position my, doesn't really matter where I put it because I can rotate it, sit my template in the middle of the mat. It works, these rotating mats work better if you use the center. Place my template on there, doesn't matter whether I've got it upside down like that or whether I put it up the right way. And then I'm going to cut out my template, my fabric. Now I like to use this smaller rotary cutter when I'm using the template, so I can either choose my Clover or my Alpha 28mm. We'll just grab the Clover one. I do like to stand up so that I can get pressure. Fingertips pushing down on the template, open my blade, do my first cut. Now, you want to keep that piece. That selvage piece that you cut off, keep that because it's got the number on it. Don't throw that one away. This one, that can go in the scraps. Rotate your rotating mat. Keep your fingers on your template. Make sure you close your blade every time you're not cutting. You need to cut the nubbed corners of the blade. Now here I'm just going to go straight through to the edge, and then I can remove that. I'm going to take off the nubbed corner. Whoops, this side, I didn't cut hard enough there. And whoops, open my blade, cut down there. So very simple process when you have a rotating mat. So, whoops, didn't quite do that. Too busy talking. So these 2 pieces, now I now have 2 pieces cut. Now the rest of that strip, plus my selvage edge that has the number 82 on it, I'm going to put it into a Ziploc bag. Now I've been thinking long and hard about the best way to sort this, and I'm thinking that a Ziploc bag with that fabric, the little selvage edge, and I'm either going to write number 82 or 41 plus, actually I'm going to write the degrees, 41 plus degrees. So this colour represents 41 plus. So anything that's 41 and onwards is going to be represented by this colour, and I leave that selvage in there with the number on it because when you need to reorder that one, and let's hope we don't have to use too many 41 pluses for the year, but when you want to reorder that fabric, you'll know what number it is to reorder it. So I'm going to put my spare one in the bag because I only need one high temperature for January the 1st. And I'm going to put that bag aside. So it's got, I've written on it in texter. You could also put a label and put it inside the bag. But if that happens to fall out, you know, I've got it written on the bag. That's that 41 plus fabric. Now, my low temperature, where's my sheet? Up the other way. My low temperature was 14. So my low temperature is going to be represented by this fabric, which is anything that's 13 or 14 degrees. So this is number 245. So I find number 245 in my stack here. Number 245, where is it? 245, hang on, where is it? I will find it and be back. Yep, I found him. And I want to show you something else as well. Now, if you have trouble holding that template still, so this is my number 245, which is representing 13 and 14 degrees. If you have trouble holding the template still, here's a little trick. Just grab some masking tape, make yourself a little loop, and put it on the back of the template. And I would put probably 2 on there, on this big one anyway, this big template. I'm just going to stick 2 on there. And then when I position that template on my fabric, it'll stick it down. That means it won't move, and it means if you take your hands off the template, it's not going to matter so much, you know, to take your hands off the template, because the template is stuck down, it's not moving. Oops. Remove that fabric away. Remember to keep that selvage edge that's got the number written on it. Don't throw that away, otherwise you won't know what the fabric is. Alright, so there's my cutting of that. I can also check to make sure I have cut cleanly around the edges. Just going to make sure I got that selvage edge that I need to keep. And then just gently peel that off. And that sticky is good to go again and again. Now there's my 2 pieces for January the 1st. I'm going to put this fabric with the number on it. So on this one I actually had to write with a white pencil, and I used my Sewline Trio marker to do that. So the Sewline Trio marker has pink, white and black lead, and we're going to use this to keep track of things. So that's the fabric in there. I've already written 13, 14 on that bag, all ready to go. So seal it up, and that is, oops, hang on, put the spare one that you cut in the bag so you know where it is. Okay, done that. Now the other thing that I did with the small quilts, I've already cut the small quilt and made that one up. And what I actually did when I did that was I did myself a little cheat sheet. Just a little bit of paper that I went through all the temperatures and I worked out how many of each one I want. And this is when I've discovered that for the month of January for here in Kaniva, we have had 30 different temperatures so far as either the minimum or the maximum. So with my 42 fabric quilt for my small, I actually had to use 30 of them, which was just amazing for, you know, we're not even through the whole month of January. But if you make yourself a list like this, and it would tell me how many I needed to cut, which meant I didn't have to go back to the bags all the time. I actually cut that number first time around. Now, this is January the 1st. The highest temperature was 41 degrees. The lowest temperature for the day was 14 degrees. Now, I don't know whether I've told you how to find those temperatures. You can record them yourself with the minimum maximum thermometer if you want to, but I recommend that you find a website that has your local temperature on it, and if it has historical data so that you can actually look at the whole month at once, that's really helpful. So if you don't record it every day, you can look back at it at, say, the end of the month and get the whole month in one go. Now, I'm going to turn my marker pencil to white, and I'm going to write Jan 1st on the back of the low temperature, not on the high temperature. I'm always going to write on the low. I'm just going, and I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this, but I'm just going to write Jan 1. I'm writing it probably a bit bigger than I normally would, hoping that you can see that. And I always write on the low temperatures. That's important because when we get to putting the blocks together, the orientation of the high and the low temperature is important with the construction of the actual quilt. So I always write on the low temperature, and then the high temperature does not have anything written on the back. So we're going to put these right sides together. Now they are nubbed, and it's important to cut that nubbing because then they line up really nicely. Now these are bias edges, so you don't want to be stretchy and you know, don't be rough with them, don't pull them around. just grab yourself some pins. I like to use the Matilda's Own flower head pins, and I'm going to put 2, possibly 3 in this long one. When I did the small quilt with the bee piece, I just used 2 pins, but with this longer piece, and because they are bias edges, it doesn't hurt to put in some extra pins. Now you may notice that I'm putting my pins in at an angle, and I always pin like that. It is a pinning technique that I've discovered works extremely well. When I stitch here, I'm going to start stitching at the top here and do a regular 1/4 inch seam all the way down. Because my pins are angled, means I can pull those pins out easily with my right hand without hitting my hand on the inside half of the machine. And also my needle can get very close to the pin when it's at that angle. So go ahead and sew this, and I am going to do that now, and then I'm going to show you the next step. Now the next step is pressing. So we've come to the pressing mat, and I do use steam, so I'm just waiting for this iron, to give me some steam. Now I'm going to press it the way I stitched it first. Now I've got the light fabric, no, I shouldn't say that, the lowest temperature fabric on the top, the one that I wrote on. So it's got Jan 1st on it. I'm going to give that a press to set the seam, and then I'm going to lift up that piece, and let me turn that sideways so you can see what I'm doing. Put my iron in there, oops, sorry, wobbling the camera, and just gently push that over and then press it down. So I just used the side of the iron. I probably should have done it this way so you could see better. Push that up against that seam, make it flop over and give it a press. Have a look at it, make sure you've got that all the way back. Now if you're not happy with it and you don't think you've got that back far enough, you can use your finger presser. So I also have a finger pressing tool to make sure that you get that all the way back. You don't want anything folding over. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a press with the finger presser and make sure that that seam is pressed all the way out. If you don't have your seams pressed out fully, your square won't be the correct size. It'll be too small. Just going to give that a press. And then I always turn it over and press it from the other side, making sure that that seam is all sitting flat and it hasn't, buckled up or anything. And I'm just giving that a bit of convincing that it's going to sit flat for me. Okay, and there is January the 1st done. Okay, I am going to be back and show you what's happening next. Now, January the 2nd had a high temperature of 33 degrees. So I've looked at my list and I worked out that I actually need to cut 4 of the 34 degrees. So I've cut 2, because there's doubled, and then I simply turn my template around, and this angle is the correct angle, and I'm not going to waste any fabric because it fits on there really nicely, and all I have to do is a straight cut through there. Oops, I get that all. Straight cut through there. Check that I've got that corner nubbed correctly, and that one there, and I'm just going to do a cut along there to make sure I'm all good. So this fabric is going to go in a bag with its selvage and its number, and I have my 4 number 3334. Now I need 1 for January the 2nd. The other 3 I'm going to put in the bag with the spares. So when I get to needing them again, I just need to look in the bag, and I don't forget to put my number on the bag. So this is temperature 33. Where are we? 33, 34. 33-34. Right, got that label. So now I need to find my lowest temperature for that day, which is 16. Okay, so I've got January 1 and January 2 blocks made. January 2, January 1. Now I need, by the way, it is more efficient to do all your cutting first and then pin them all together in their two half square triangles, making sure that you've, paired them up correctly according to your temperatures for that day. Then sew them all, chain piecing them all, and then press them. And that's how I did when I was doing template B, the smaller one. That's how I did it. But because I want to show you the steps and how to do it, I've just done these 2 blocks. And then what I'm going to do is refer to my quilt chart. So this is January. I'm just showing you January at the moment. And the first two blocks at this end are blank, and they will match up. So this one is going to match whatever colour is here on the 2nd of January, and this one is going to match whatever colour is here on the 1st of January. And where the numbers are in each block is the lower temperature. So January the 1st had a low temperature of 14. So this square is going to be cut from fabric that represents 14 degrees. This square, because it is on the 2nd of January, is going to be cut from the same fabric as is in the lower temperature on here. We're then going to, so those blocks, I haven't done those ones yet. Don't need to worry about them just yet, because the other end is also going to have some filler blocks, and we won't know what they are until we get to the 31st and 29th and 31st of January before I will know what goes at the other end. Because I've still got all these, I've still got a few days in January to go yet. But what we want to do is put January the 1st, which is this one, needs to be in this position so that the number 1 is where the low temperature is, and then January 2, which is this block, needs to have the low temperature up here in the top part of the block. So these two would be stitched together along this seam. So make sure when you get to this point that these center seams have been pressed out fully. Now I've pressed them and they're wanting to sit up again. So either repress them or just give them that little bit of encouragement with that finger presser, make them sit down. Again, I would pin these. Now make sure that you keep them in the right way around. So put them together. Now don't go away, make a cup of tea and then come back, because you'll forget which side you're supposed to be stitching. That's another reason I use pins, because once I've put the pins in, I know that's the side that I'm going to stitch. Now line them up as accurately as you can, as square as you can. Oops, come on, just sit over that way a bit. And sometimes if the block is not wanting to sit square, sometimes I'll even put a straight pin in at this end, only one, because where the 2 pins are is where I'm going to sew. So I'm going to sew that, and then I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like. And then after that, I'm going to show you what I've done with the smaller quilt, because I've got as much as I can for the month already done. So when you press this, press it with the lowest date or earliest date up the top. So this is January 1 and January 2 is underneath. So January 1 is the earlier date. I want that on top. Give it a press to set the seam. Then lift that one up, push it back. Oops, I've got a little bit of extra thread and bits I'd cut off something else on there. And just give that a press over. So we're pressing it towards the lowest, the first, so that the seam is going towards the 1st of January, from the 2nd of January to the 1st of January. Press it from the back as well. And if you can let that cool on your pressing mat before, just let it cool for a little bit, it will sit even flatter. So this is January 1 and 2 in the large size. And then you would continue on making them and following the quilt chart to get them all in order. Put your bags into a basket in order. So that's my bags for the large quilt. This is my box, my tub of bags for the small quilt. So like I said, I had to cut 30 colours. The colours that I didn't have to cut, I've just put them all in together, and I've got all their labels ready for when I actually do cut and separate them into their separate bags. But I'm not doing that just yet until I actually cut those temperatures. And some of those, let's hope the minuses, we won't be doing for a little while. Alright, so I did say I would show you what I had got done with the smaller quilt. Let's just move that out of the way so that when I put this down here, you can have a look at what the quilt looks like. Now, the other thing I am doing is putting in some rain inserts. So when it rains, I'm actually putting in a strip for how much rain we have. Now, just let me make sure, January 1 and 2. Alright, so let me show you this. This is the filler on the end. This is January 1 up here, and So it goes January 1, January 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On the 8th of January we had a little bit of rain, and there is my rain insert. We had 0.2 of a mil, so I cut a certain size, and I've got all my rain insert sizes worked out as well. So there's only a little bit of rain. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. On the 17th we had how much rain? 1.4 mil. On the 18th we had 2 mil. So you can see the 18th rain insert is wider than the other one. This must be the 19th. Yep. January the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th and 26th, and that's as far as I can go at this point in time until I get the rest of my dates, because those days haven't happened yet. And so that is the temperature quilt for most of January, and I was amazed at how many fabrics I needed to use in that month. So that's all for this month. I will be doing next month, and I'll show you how to do the rain inserts, which I didn't get to, but it will be in the instructions. Now, what you need to get yourself is a Kaniva block template set, and once you buy the Kaniva block template set, then I add you to the Kaniva block users Facebook page, and that's where I'm going to be putting the monthly installments of making the temperature quilt on the Kaniva block users Facebook page, which you won't be able to find unless you buy the template set, and then I invite you to that group. It is a private secret group, and because you'll need the template set anyway to make the quilt. The other thing is, if you are interested in Grunge group, you can certainly ask me about that. So any questions, just type them in and ask me. Thanks for joining me, and see you next time.